Hello and welcome to our report on the test weekend from the Le Mans 24-hour race preparation. May 2001 and extremely cold here in north-central France. The transporters have arrived, the cars are prepared, the photographers are there to take the all-important shots as we get ready for the Le Mans test weekend 2001. Audi, victors last year, have had a recent tragedy with the loss of Michele Alboreto in testing in Germany. The Joest team deeply affected by the loss of the man who's worked with them for 3 years, and they're looking forward to getting back out racing and doing it properly for Michele. Audi have sold 2 cars to the Gulf team and the Champion team in order to back up their own 2-car works effort. The purpose of the Le Mans test weekend, 6 weeks or so before the race each year, is to prove to the organising club that the cars they've accepted, down from the massive initial entry list of over 75 cars that they had, is to impress them that the 48 cars selected to run in the test weekend should indeed be allowed to come to the race weekend itself in the middle of June. We look forward to that. So behind Audi, a lot of teams with a lot to prove. After a comparatively low-key year in 2000, when the Audis really did have it all their own way, this year, 2001, sees a lot of new competition, with Audi perhaps still the favourites, but a lot to come forward. Monsieur Drio here, who runs the Dams team on behalf of Cadillac, has another 2-car effort with a heavily revamped car. We look forward to see that running well this weekend. Collard there, fitting himself in, talking to his mechanics to make sure that he's comfortable. There are a number of other big stories, including, of course, the return of Bentley and also the return of MG. With Panoz here with a full factory effort, with the new Dome cars, the Ascari cars, the top class is extremely busy. The Dams-run Cadillac team has brought together a host of top sports car talent to make those cars work. Also a very impressive new effort, there is Olivier Beretta, undoubtedly the lead driver with Yannick Dalmat in the Chrysler team, is the Chrysler engine Dallara-built chassis run by the extremely experienced Oreca team. A glance there at the level of high tech that you get behind the steering wheel of these modern Le Mans prototypes. So, Chrysler has a very strong driver lineup. Carl Wendlinger there on the left talks to the brakes man. And the Japanese Kondo and Ara look like they're going to get a run in the 3rd car. The works Panoz, being pushed backwards there into the pits, has had a troubled debut, an all-new car, all-new engine. Henri Pescarolo there talks animatedly to an old friend while he looks over his 2-car Peugeot engine, bright green cars. Also in a Courage chassis is Philippe Gache, who we saw there, this one with a Judd V10 engine and sponsored by Speedy. Gache will race with Beltoise and Polycon, and that is an extremely strong combination. The Courage, let's not forget, came 4th last year behind the all-conquering Audis, so a lot can be expected from the 3 Courage chassis built right next to Le Mans, round the back of the industrial Technopole in the middle of the circuit. Further up the road, the British Ascari cars have caused something of a sensation. Young South African Werner Lukberger, joined by Britain's Ben Collins, have been running impressively in the FIA Sports Car Series, and this is a well-prepared 2-car effort. Also 2 cars from Dome, one the black and white car of Jan Lammers in the Dutch team, and the other the red and white Danish team. We see Derek Bell here talking to the boss of Bentley, Tony Gott, Stefan Ortelli and Guy Smith, 2 of the drivers. Bell will be driver coach for the Bentley team. Now this is a beautiful car. This is the only closed coupe in the top class here at Le Mans. In fact, has a little class of its own, but effectively they're all together with the other LMP 900 prototypes. The Bentley, using the core of engine from the Audi, in fact, of last year, all part of the same group now, but very much a British-built effort at RTN in Norfolk, looking to see that run well. Likely to be the fastest LMP is the Rock car there. The 675 class engine cars were very quick last year. The little Volkswagen turbo engine has been developed further. This is the Reynard chassis to be driven by Eric van der Poel there of the Dick Barber racing team, now running in the LMP 675. And here we have the MG Works team. Lola-built chassis, AER-built engines, all new, everything new. Probably not enough testing before they came to this weekend at Le Mans, and very much in public. They've got to get on with it. The core team coming from the vastly experienced Chamberlain Motorsports team of mechanics who've run at Le Mans for so many years. Very elegant car. The Lola looks very purposeful. The colour scheme has caught everybody's attention. Also likely to be a crowd pleaser are these Salines, a little controversial in the GTS, big engine GT class. There are 3 of these Salines because Chevrolet, whose yellow car we're looking at here, and Viper will say that the Salines have not really sold many cars to be on the road, which is meant to be one of the qualifying points to run a GTS car. However, the Corvettes have already won endurance races this year, the Daytona 24 Hours, as the Vipers did last year, and this car should be very strong competition for the Salines. Scott Pruitt, the ex-Champ Car driver there, we saw in the cockpit. These are very serious racing cars, and we can expect to see them very quick. This man will be hoping that the Vipers have still got it in them. The Belmondo team's Vipers, sponsored as always by Corona Beer and Fina, have again got a strong driver lineup, and they'll be looking for a class victory in GTS. Christophe Bouchou is among those drivers, and he's expecting to be able to lap the Viper in around 3 minutes 55, which should be good enough for a top 3 position in this very, very closely contested class. In earnest, 10 o'clock on the Sunday morning, Le Mans opened its track to the prototypes to get out there. The track expected to be very dusty and the day very cold indeed, and very difficult therefore to get some temperature into the tyres and the brakes. And as the track gets more and more crowded, drivers have got to wend their way among 48 cars, 3 drivers in each car. That must mean that some of the drivers are going to be quicker and sharper and more on the ball than the others, and it's up to the drivers of the quick prototypes to look out for the experienced amateur driving a Porsche. A beautiful looking car, immaculately prepared. Bentley are very serious indeed about this effort. Over 3 years, and with drivers of the caliber of Brundle and Ortelli and Guy Smith and a team coach like Derek Bell, the driver team also joined by Andy Wallace, a past winner himself, who was telling us earlier on that he is determined to win Le Mans one more time before he retires. This is a very, very quick car, very professional. Everything in there. Martin Brundle taking instruction as the car's up on jacks in the garage. They've pulled together leading engineers and preparation men from many of the world's best sports car teams. Bentley are serious about Le Mans. Also, as ever, serious and enthusiastic about Le Mans is the Panoz team. Don Panoz himself here this weekend. But this all-new car with the all-new engine and a worried-looking Gary Formato sitting in the car there has had a terrible time over the last few weeks of testing. David Brabham and Jan Magnussen have got a lot to do to make this car work as they would like. The second car will be driven by Gary Formato, and that's the younger pilots having a go in that car. The little yellow WR, the local French-built car, as always quick in the baby prototype class, 675. And our camera team taking advantage of the spring light to film through the trees which will have thickened up by the time we're back here in June, making such shots impossible. The Pescarolo Courage with a rather flat sounding but very efficient and very powerful Peugeot twin-turbo engine had a very good run all morning. The Pescarolo sport cars both in the top 10 for a lot of the morning. Very well driven those cars they are too, with Bourdais, Bouillon and Redon in one car, Cottas, Grouillard and Clerico in the other, and also a strong driver lineup in the dark blue Courage with the Judd engine, with that distinctive Judd V10 whale, Philippe Gache, Anthony Beltoise and Jérôme Policond, another strong team for the French fans to cheer on. They'll all look forward to being a good deal warmer than they were on the May test weekend when they come back and cheer on the French teams in June. Also a huge British contingent expected at Le Mans this year to cheer on the Bentley and the MG. We normally get around 60,000 British fans at Le Mans in June. This year expected to be half as many again. Those Channel ferries are going to be very busy. The Audi running slowly out on track, while Jan Lammers' teammates come diving past in the black and white dome. The idea is that each one of those little squares is available to a Dutch company to sponsor, and that's the way Jan is raising the budget he needs to race at Le Mans with the Judd-engined Dome prototype. He's got a lot of help from the Dome engineers in Japan and two very young co-drivers in the form of Hillebrand and Crevels, who he wants to bring on as the Dutchman of the future. The number 6, Dams entered Cadillac there. Not as quick as they wanted to be. In fact, they were really in the lower reaches of the top 20 all morning. The number 6 car will be driven by Wayne Taylor, Max Angelilli and Christophe Tinceau, and its partner car, number 5, by Bernard, Collard and Goossens. The Cadillac, though major redesign, clearly needs work in order to make it competitive and get up there with the Audis and the Chryslers. Cadillac always said it was a 3-year program. This car's been heavily redesigned by Britain's Nigel Stroud, built at Brackley in England under the supervision of the very experienced Jeff Hazel. There's no reason why this car shouldn't be quick, and the Dams team has got all the experience in the world. So Cadillac must hope that between now in May and the race in the middle of June, this Cadillac prototype makes a considerable leap forward, both in top-end speed and handling. Competition was hot in the GTS class, and though the Salines, as expected, were quickest, the number 58 car, Larbre competition entered for Christophe Bouchou, an overall former winner at Le Mans, was going very quickly, as was the Works Chevrolet Corvette being driven by Ron Fellows, Pruitt and O'Connell. Down in the LMP 675 class, the little ROC blue and yellow turbo engine Reynards were very quick, and here in the GT class it was all Porsches except for one Callaway, and those cars running very well. And here is the Callaway looking for a way round one of his class competitors, the number 79 car. That car entered from the United States, is looking strong, but clearly with much heavier fuel consumption. It's hard to see anyone other than a Porsche 911 winning in GT. The Panoz caught fire to cap a really disastrous day for David Brabham and Jan Magnussen. Panoz not at all happy. This was apparently an electrical short that caused a little oil fire. Nothing too dramatic, but certainly enough to put them out effectively for the rest of the day. The Panoz had to accept that they were not going to get a great run, and indeed many of the smaller class cars were quicker than they were by the time we got to the end of the day. Jan Lammers explains how he wants the car refixed over the lunch break. Well, everybody sits down, including the RML team with the Saleen car, sit down to relax a little over some lunch. Come the 2 o'clock restart for another 4 hours of testing. The temperature had risen a little bit, but it was still cold for the tyres and cold for the engineers as well. All the teams used this weekend to impress their sponsors, to bring along some guests, to make an impression and to show how quickly they can run, as well as actually testing everything that needs to be tested. At this stage, halfway through the day, the people who were concerned was the MG team, concerned that the organisers would make sure that they should indeed have their entry for both the cars, even though it looked very unlikely that the second car would run in the course of the afternoon. The Dams team were quickly out in search of those elusive seconds, while all effort within the MG pit was now focused on the one car. A great deal of work going on the engine and the gearbox, as well as every other part of the systems, trying to make all these new and disparate elements to a very new team talk to each other, both actually and electronically. The number 2 Audi, formerly entered by Audi Sport North America, in fact, the Capello Christensen car, was very soon out there and determined to lead the times. The track now much cleaner, some rubber down on it in order to assist some grip, and we can expect to see times tumbling as Sunday afternoon wore on. Back in the garage, Scott Pruitt looks concerned to see how the Corvette can be doing up against the Saleen competition, and Stefan Johansson is determined to remain well inside the top 6 at Le Mans, a circuit he loves, and he's absolutely thrilled with the car. It is expected that his co-drivers come June will be Jean-Marc Gounon and, they say, Pierluigi Martini, who of course won here in '99 for BMW. Classic Le Mans shot there with the Audi howling away from the corner at the end of the Mulsanne straight. The number 1 Audi, run by the factory for Biela and Pirot. This is Pirot at the wheel there with the distinctive red and white helmet. Was also running extremely effectively. They weren't going for outright times. Their car number 1 and the yellow helmet there is Frank Biela. Out on the track, the Bentley continued to impress, and as the afternoon wore on, the team made the decision, knowing that they'd acquired a lot of the technical data that they needed. It was worth bolting some softer, sticky qualifying rubber onto the number 7 car and letting Martin Brundle have a go. Brundle finished 3rd in the times behind the number 2 Audi and the number 3 champion car of Johnny Herbert and Kellener's. Was the class of the field. The Dick Barber number 36 car, driven by Didier de Rodriguez and Eric van der Poel, was determined to be the quickest of that little group. Having set his time, he was able to back off. They were followed by the Rock Auto car, Marc Genet, Fabre and Jean-Denis Delatraz, doing a great job, getting right down to 3 minutes 45.444 seconds to be second in the 675 class. It was really a very impressive performance, followed by the Lola of Claudia Hürtgen being run by the Rook team. Also astonishingly impressive throughout the afternoon was the Dome, the Racing for Holland sponsored Dome. Car number 9, the black and white distinctive checkers, they were 4th overall by the end of the afternoon. There has to be some question mark over the Judd V10's ability to run for 24 hours, but Jan Lammers is confident, and the people from Engine Developments at Rugby in England are sure that their V10 engine is strong enough. In the big GTS class, Belmondo is joined by Vanina X, daughter of 5-times winner Jackie X. There she is offering some advice. A very quick driver in her own right in the Belgian Championship, and this is her first ever run at Le Mans. The number 55 car was going to finish inside the top 6 among the GTS cars, behind the 2 Salines, the Labre, number 58, Viper, and the first of the Corvettes. Very, very competitive in GTS. We're expecting the closest class battle of the 4 classes to be that way come June. That is the main part of the old main road, slightly resurfaced this year as they come down into the chicanes in order to make sure that we don't see a repeat of some of the more difficult accidents of recent years. Johnny Herbert there and Didier Thays, both extremely cold. Big difference to Johnny's days in Formula One. And the Audi had an off there. There was obviously a little lock-up from the back. You saw a great puff of tar smoke coming out of the back. And that is the sort of accident that can ruin your entire weekend at Le Mans. The Corvettes, not quite as quick as they wanted to be in the GTS class. The Bentley, which though we say are all together in the top class, in fact, because they are closed coupes, have a little 2-car class of their own, but effectively this is a 4-class race. The Bentley's 3rd. The Chevrolets reporting, and a little download there on how they got on. They should be happy with their day's work. They'll expect to be quicker come June. And down in the baby GT class, there were 1 or 2 real surprises. The Freisinger Motorsport car, driven by Xavier Pompidou, was quickest of all in GT1, 4 minutes 13 seconds. That's very quick. But the Salines, there's Johnny Molam's number 62 car, entered by Ray Malek, who actually designed and built this car, was second quickest behind the Works Saline, to be driven by Franz Conrad, Oliver Gavin and Terry Borcheglia from the United States. The number 60 car looked very quick. This is a full, fast race car, and it's going to provide a very tough nut for the Vipers and the Corvettes to crack come June. Down in the smallest class, the Porsches versus the one lone Callaway, there's Xavier Pompidou, fastest on the Sunday of the test weekend in his Porsche. In the GT3 class, though we call them the smallest class, let's not forget they're going down the Mulsanne Straight at 190 miles an hour. They're lapping in around 4 minutes 15. These are very quick motor cars. But it's hard to imagine that the Chereau car, number 80, who was second quickest in class, the Cycle Motorsports, number 83, third quickest, won't beat the Callaway. Oh, and a mistake there from one of the Dick Barber Reynard cars with a Judd engine. We've just seen the Audi do the same thing. That's a very easy way to make an entire mess of your Le Mans race. The Cadillac pounded round and around and around without going a great deal quicker. And so in the top class, it was Audi, Audi, Bentley, Dome, Audi, Audi, Bentley, the Chrysler prototype, Pescarolo car 9th, and the Ascari, an excellent result, 10th, with another Pescarolo car just behind, and so on. A disastrous weekend for some, including the Panoz team, not nearly on the pace they wanted to be. A very testing weekend indeed for the MG team, but Audi have every reason to laugh and smile. They've recovered from the Alboreto loss, and they've finished up right on top of the timesheets at Le Mans. Come back and join us in June to see the 24 hours itself. That was it, the Le Mans Test Weekend 2001.